How you doing? This is Eric Levy. Um, First off, this isn't really about knives, but this is a true story. When I was 15, 16 years old, my brother had run away from home the year earlier, stole a bunch of drugs, and left with his friends. He was a couple years older than me at the time. At one point, he's 2 years older, and I'm a year younger. And then I catch up, and he's a year, and I'm a year behind him. So he took off to Florida. While I was back here in Connecticut, I had gotten in a lot of trouble. I was what you would call a juvenile delinquent. So after almost a year, my brother had called the house, and I was anxious to talk to him, see what was going on. And I explained to him my situation that was going on up here in Connecticut. I had a lot of court cases and probation, and I think I was under arrest for something already. So he told me I could come down to Florida and I could live with him. I was 15, 16 at the time, I'm not sure. So my mom said, yeah, you could go. So she put me on the bus. Down to Florida I went. When I got down to Florida, I found out that the house my brother was living in was owned by two guys. One was called Dick Betts, and the other one was known as Dean Kirkbride. These guys were child molesters. They had 5 or 6 other kids who lived in the house, including my brother and me. I'm not going to mention any of their names. A couple of them I kind of know where they are. So for months, basically, down there, we were all basically raped and molested. We were passed through Orlando, Daytona, Cocoa Beach, Kissimmee. Many people involved in this. I could easily say hundreds of kids. It was difficult knowing that my brother, while I was there, told me, you can't go home. Mom doesn't want you there. I had no access to money. So he basically lured me into these predators. Why he did it, I'm not sure. Maybe he wanted a friendly face around. Maybe he thought if he could get somebody else involved, it wouldn't make him feel so bad what he did. But I endured this for a few months. One person there, I'll call him Billy, was my friend. Well, what happened one day is one of the kids in the house, not Billy, another kid, I'll call him Joe, he had a folding buck knife. And he was out in the garage waving it around, and he jumped up and he stabbed it into a tire, and the knife closed, just about severed his finger off. So we all have to rush to the hospital. I don't know what happened at that hospital, but within a day or two, they were throwing people out of the house. They stuck me on a bus. Some other kid followed with me. He went on to Massachusetts. I got off in Connecticut. And I never saw these people again. So when I came home, I alluded to my mom what was going on down there, all of that. Just didn't seem to faze her. She didn't pick up the phone and call or say what's going on. That these rapists are down there. So it kind of ended there. Another year later, I joined the Navy and blah, 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 went on. So over the years, I have spent time trying to find these people on the internet. And the internet was really only in my life the last 10, 15 years. What I'm talking about was 37 years ago. I'm 54 now. One day, about 3 years ago, I was looking through the internet trying to find these people, and I came across an article about a 14-year-old kid who shot a pedophile in Daytona Beach. So I read the article, and it's this one guy named Olin Lee Hepler. I knew this man. He was the worst of them. He was a car salesman in Daytona Beach. He had all the money. He had all the drugs. He would have all the parties. He's the one who would slip the lewd into your drink or whatever and basically rape you. This guy was a true piece of shit. I mean, I didn't like him. He would tell you he'll leave you. You owe him. He used to refer to himself as his uncle. These people had actual documents signed by judges giving just blank documents where you fill it in and they could say they were the custodial guardian of these people. One of the kids I lived with in the house actually went to school there. One of the guys who owned the house was in the education system. So as I'm reading this article, what happened is if you go to my Facebook page, just Eric Levy, you'll see at the very top there, it says Free Mark Barrios. Mark Barrios is the guy who shot Hitler. He had walked away from a detention center. You know, he was 14 years old. He's like me. I probably would have walked away too. But when he got out of there, he wound up in Daytona Beach and immediately fell into the hands of Hitler. Hitler played his games, this and that. He went to rape the kid. Fight occurs, kid gets his gun, bam, shoots him in the head. He takes Hitler's car and goes to his bank account, drains some money out, and takes off. I don't know if he got caught or he turned himself in, but when the police got a hold of him, they said, we don't know whether to give you a medal or to arrest you. They charge him with murder. Now, what you got to understand is, back in the early 80s, people weren't going to Cancun and Mexico for spring break. It was Daytona Beach. Everybody wanted to go to Florida, Daytona Beach. Every kid in the world would run away and go to fucking Florida. So this was a right breeding ground for these guys. So, I just lost my place now. It's a lot to take care of. But Hitler was the worst. And when the kid shot him and took off with the car and the money and they arrested him, through the trial they offered him 18 years. He refused it. So he's now 15 years old. He goes to court. Lo and behold, the kid that I'll call him Billy, has been working with state, federal, and local officials for 2 years to build a case against Hitler, Betts, Kirkbride, a couple other people that are involved. And then Barrios shoots him before they can do anything. They couldn't build a case. So Panama Beach is competing with Daytona Beach for spring break. Daytona Beach doesn't want to say, hey, we got this huge pedophile ring here, blah, 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 blah. We're going to have this whole thing blow up in our face about what's been going on. So they simply say, this troubled kid that escaped from a youth facility center robbed this poor innocent car salesman and then stole his money in his car. When the trial came up, they brought Billy in to testify. Billy had been with these people for years and years. He literally knows people up and down the East Coast that are part of this pedophile ring, from New York, Massachusetts, all the way down to Florida. They used to travel up and down the East Coast. He got passed around to several different people. He was at a house of some pervert, and he had jumped into the pool and injured his neck. They refused to take him to the hospital. He ended up becoming paralyzed. It took him years and years and years to learn to walk. He still doesn't walk right. So the day of the trial, they bring Billy in. They clear the courtroom of the fucking jury. The jury never gets to hear this because of some bullshit laws that the guy can't defend himself, prior past acts can't be used, blah, blah, blah. Sentence him to life without parole. Bang. That's it. 15 years old. The kid is off to life in prison. I'm reading this article. I said, I got to get in touch with this fucking lawyer. I gotta tell him what I know. So I call up the lawyer. They immediately want to get in touch with me because they couldn't get anybody else to come forward. They couldn't find any of these kids. Through the course of becoming involved with the case, Mark's mother, who is a freaking saint, I know my goddamn mom wouldn't do this, the second he got arrested, she left New Jersey and she has been in Florida ever since, fighting every appeal in this case along the way, getting the door shut in her face. She never gave up. I've been in touch with her. I talked to her. I've written Mark in jail, let him know who I am. She has been fighting this on and on and on. So now, once he's sentenced to life in jail, they appeal it. Appeals get turned down. So here he is, languishing years, no hope of getting out of there. The Supreme Court says, It's illegal to sentence a minor to life without parole. He's got to get you can't do that. So Florida, 4th District Court of Appeals, decides, well, we're not going to apply this law retroactively. So Mark is out of luck. So now they're fighting that, appealing it. Meanwhile, I guess the 4th District Court covers a couple states down in the South. There was a case, Miller versus Alabama, where there was a minor sentenced to life in prison. They applied the law retroactively and gave him a resentencing hearing. Begrudgingly, after a year or so, Florida decides he's entitled to a resentencing hearing. And what's good is because I wasn't there at the first trial or anything, I consider new evidence. I can now back him up just about when he was born. This guy has been doing this shit, and I was one of his victims. So today we get well, let me back up for a minute. He had a lawyer for all these years working on the case. It's coming up now. At the original trial, the judge said this is one of the worst cases that he's heard. So extensive, so many people. These guys were operating out of hotels. Old guys were having sex with kids in the hotels, and they were filming this stuff, making it in movies. They operated a place called Pretty Boy Productions. They had well connected. There was definitely people involved. Who was this judge who signed all these papers? They tried to get in touch with him. He didn't want to talk, hung up the phone, goodbye. The prosecutors in the case told one of the assistants to get rid of all this evidence. She made copies that disappeared. Nobody's seen her in 20 years. They're looking for her now. She's afraid to come forward with this information. Because, like I said, it's very political. They don't want this to come out about Florida. So today I get an email. I've been waiting about 3 years now that I've been on this. But entirely, I've been waiting 37 years for someone to hear my story. I would have killed the motherfucker myself. That's why I was looking for him. But they're going to pay. They have funds to get me down to Florida on May 12th. I have to be there on the 11th to go over my testimony. I've have affidavits and all of that. So I wanted to go to the Broken Feather Palooza at Joseph Darra's. I know it's in May at some time, but between, the money going here and that, I won't be able to do it. But this guy Hepler, his own lawyer, hands over documents to Mark Barrios' legal team. Affidavits by Hepler himself, where the lawyer says he would come into his office and gleefully tell of the stories of what he would do with kids. And 2 particular stories, which I have the affidavits for right here. These are his own fucking words. That a buddy of his that owned a plane, I'm pretty sure I know who he is. They took a kid up and threw him out of the airplane over the Atlantic Ocean in Daytona Beach because he was going to rat them out. On another occasion, he had a kid at his house. The kid thought he was going to get raped, so he's down on his knees, all of that. Hepler rapes him, sodomizes him with a knife. These were sick fucking people. I don't doubt for a minute that people disappeared. Hundreds of kids disappeared in Florida. I consider myself pretty lucky that I ain't there, because they got rid of me pretty quick after the kid stabbed the knife. Maybe they thought I was going to tell somebody, whatever. My wife never knew about any of this until after my 3rd time in detox. They asked if you were ever molested, any of that. I've told them the story. In 94, right around the time Hepler was shot, I sent a full handwritten 3 pages of what happened to me, basically what I just told you. Never heard from him back. Barrios fucking blows this scumbag away. That's it. It's the end of the story. I don't hear anything anymore. So it's I don't know what I hate more. The cops who never did anything. We would walk around in restaurants, 7, 8 kids with these 2 adults. None of us looked the same. Some had different accents. Nobody cared. There was actually a wall down in Daytona Beach that where you sat under the clock. It was known as the chicken wall. I didn't know it. I'm sitting up on the wall one day. These old guys want a blowjob, blowjob. The police knew about this. They knew it was right with these people, and they couldn't do anything about it. Eventually they started cleaning it up, but these guys went in the motels. Now they're on the internet. But what I really want to say is it took a long time for me to really tell people what happened. And there's more to it. Whatever you can imagine is pretty much what happened. People will say, are you embarrassed about talking? I'm not, because it's already happened. Talking about it isn't going to hurt. As far as I go, there's nothing I can do. I'm 54 years old. I'm fucked up, so, but it's made my attitude why I have the ugly, scary tattoos, because I like to project that I am not going to be a victim again. And it's affected everything. It almost cost me my marriage. I went through crack. I went through alcohol, marijuana, coke, pills, you name it, till I finally came to terms with what happened. Said enough of the fucking booze. And this is right about when I started getting involved in this case. If I was still drinking and all that, I wouldn't be able to do this. But I'm sure there's other people out there like me that this has happened to. And if it has, and you can deal with it, that's fine. If you can't, it's all right to talk about it. And people with kids out there, Hepler would have us go out on the beach and look for runaways. He'd give us money. And the way the game is played down there is like ass, gas, or grass. You pay up, put out, or get somebody else. And as self-preservation, you go out there, find a runaway. Yeah, we got a cool house. Come on over. My uncle's cool. Get high. And there he is going, this is his drink. Give it to him. And that's something I'm going to have to live with. I was a kid. I was out to save myself. And it's like a stain that never goes away. So if anything good can come out of this, is Barrios is going to get out of jail. These were evil, horrible fucking people. There's still more of them out there. So parents, when you're out there on the beach, it ain't the old pervert sitting there watching your kids. It's going to be the other kids that lure him. Your kids act like they were molested or anything. You listen to them, because shit happens. I'm living proof of that. I no longer talk to my brother, my mom, or anybody. I've written them all off. Their simple explanation of all this is, can't you just let it go? And, well, yeah, we know. And they don't understand, especially as being a man that happened. It's, my biggest fear is that, because there's not a day that goes by I don't think about it, it'd be my last thoughts on this earth. And that sucks. I got to do something about that. So hopefully my last thoughts will be I could do something to get this guy out of jail. Like I said, he's been in there 22 fucking years. He did society a fucking favor. So I'm going to go down there and I'm going to tell my story. And I know Billy's going to be there. There's a couple other people that are going to be there. Haven't met them personally. But Mark, when I wrote him in jail, was very happy because, like me, a lot of people simply thought, yeah, bullshit. You ripped him off. And he conveyed to me very eloquently, this is a great fucking guy, that it confirmed everything he did. It's something he can show somebody else and go, see, I'm not the only one. He's aware of Billy. We've been waiting a long time for this. A lot of appeals, a lot of bullshit's going on. So, like I said, if there's anything I can do, it's going to be this. We're celebrating right now about a year or so. My wife donated a kidney to one of my best friends. He had nobody to give him one, and he called me up one night. And after I saw him, I said, man, he's really bad. We got to, do something for him. So my wife was O negative, and she donated a kidney. So I like to think in my way, this is my good deed. So this is really the first time that I've sat down and told this to people. Like I said, this isn't about me. This is for Mark Barrios. It's been a long time. It's got to come out. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's a bittersweet thing. I know I'm going to have to go down there and, talk about, personal shit that happened. But like I said, I've lived through it. There's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to be worse than already happened. So that's about it. Keep an eye on your fucking kids. And I'll keep you posted. I hope you understand where this is coming from, and thanks for listening.